And welcome back. This week, week 5, we're looking at chapter 4 and chapter 5 in the text. I advise that you go back and read the chapters in the root text as we move along here. So the root text here is pages 47 to 53. And this particular chapter focuses on the mandala. And I'll have a handout for you. For those of you online, the handout is there on the website, so you can download that, and that will help as you look through this. But to begin with, we have some other information that is shared with us in the commentary. So looking at that, we began here, first of all, the peaceful and wrathful mandalas manifest. And beginning with the peaceful mandala, the ground, the generation of the mandala, and the conferral of the empowerment. So the mandala is this cloud of syllables, causal syllables. The syllables represent all of the deities, the 100 peaceful and wrathful deities, in this case the peaceful ones. And so first he starts with a general explanation, which is primarily looking at some of the pronunciation of Sanskrit and so forth. I'm not an expert in Sanskrit. I know a little bit more about the Tibetan language, but we'll go through some of this. First, we look at akashara. A means to negate. Kashara means to change. Now, in our text, it uses the first part of that, kasha, ksha, and not the last part, the ra, at the end. So, kshara means to change. The syllable's nature is unchanging and capable of clarifying meanings. The syllable is the general aspect of sound. The image is the written form. And so between the image, the written form, and the sound, those go together. Just like when we speak, like I am now with words, the sound of the words, if we can read the words at the same time as I go through the text, for example, then we're able to put those together, and that helps create the meaning for us. So the general image of the syllable joins with the sound to help clarify the meaning. And there are several divisions that are made in Sanskrit, so that there are 16 vowels and 34 consonants for a total of 50. So there are short, long, and extremely elongated forms of these, and it looks at a single, what it calls a single vowel, such as ka. In Tibetan, ka is a consonant, not a vowel. The a part is a vowel, and it's an indigenous part. All of the consonants in the Tibetan language end with a sound. In English, we would have a, b, c, the E sound at the end of each of those. But here it's an ah sound at the end. And that's the short version. The long version is more of an extended part of that, and we have in the Tibetan language an ah chung for the short ah, and then just ah for the longer ah. Then there's an extremely elongated, where there are 3 syllables represented just after each other, and it gives example of a, e, o, and so forth. But the way it is written is multiple syllables, vowels, but it's just pronounced as one continuum. So all of these are considered to be heavy syllables, and there are also 3 gender distinctions, male, female, neutral. And then there's also where they originate from, and so they're actually organized in the alphabet in a way, instead of one continuous string as we often do with ours, it is organized in rows, and each row is related to the idea of a certain way of pronouncing. And so here it gives the example of pa, which is pronounced with the lips, and then sa, where the tongue, tip of the tongue is right behind the teeth, ya, where the tongue is back a little bit further, more towards the roof of the mouth, and ah, which is just kind of an open expansion of the throat. And so these things are a part of helping to understand a little bit more about the way that these things might sound. Excuse me. Then we move on to 282, the specific explanation, the nature of syllables, divisions, and to purpose. So first, when the originally pure intrinsic nature of mind appears in the aspect of syllables, this becomes the support for the inexhaustible ornamental wheel of enlightened body, speech, and mind. And they abide within the four chakras, the forehead, throat, the heart, and the navel, and in the individual channels of all the Buddhas and sentient beings. By the lucidity of the colors and qualities of the syllables, the consciousness becomes lucid, faculties happen, and prowess increases. And so we better understand things through the use of these syllables in the form of language. And then by meditating upon the syllables in the heart and so forth, their color and qualities increase to become the root cause for the source of siddhi. So it is through these, by contemplating them and so forth, that we are able to cause siddhi, various accomplishments. Divisions then include syllables of the channels that abide in the body, the syllables of the deities of the palace, the syllables of the magical emanation, and the syllables of symbolic sound. So the first of these, the syllables that abide within the channels and chakras. According to this Tantra, Om Ah Hong abide in the crown, throat, and heart. In the heart, there are 42 syllables of the peaceful deities. In the crown, the 58 syllables of the Heruka wrathful deities, including the syllables of enlightened body, speech, and mind of 100 families together. These are the 103 syllables. So we have one syllable representing each of the 100 peaceful and wrathful deities, and then Om Ah Hong as the other three. In addition to that, temporarily, there are impure seed syllables in all of beings of the 6 classes that are the basis for the purification. And by the method of the deity syllables, the purification of those impure syllables naturally occur. Now, we did this with the Om Ah Hong purification practice in the Korde Rushen. And so that is the kind of a practice that we're referring to here, where the Om Ah Hong, we're destroying the impure syllables and replacing them then with the pure syllables. Concerning the syllables of the 6 beings, at the crown is Ah, at the throat is Tri, at the heart is Nri, at the navel is Su, at the secret place Pri, and at the soles of the feet Du. And various habits and karma depend on these syllables. They're the basis for purification, as well as the 103 wisdom syllables that purify, all abide in the body. So those are the body syllables, a representation of the body syllables. The syllables of the deities of the palace is the second group. While meditating upon the deities, syllables are generated in the individual places within the mandala. And we'll be looking in detail at this in a picture of the mandala here shortly. The syllables of the emanation of magic, the third category, and those are described a little bit later in the chapter. From the Vajra, body, speech, mind, and mind of the Buddha's Sambhogakaya, clouds of syllables emerge and radiate myriad emanations to accomplish the purpose of being. So that's the radiation and reabsorption of these. And then finally, the fourth one are the syllables of sound. Those are the individual sounds recited as mantra. So when we're actually reciting the mantra, that's the fourth one. The purpose is, in order to accomplish the point of the individual syllables, the syllables of the channel serve as the support for all kayas and wisdom. The syllables of the deities are the basis from which the individual deities emanate, to uphold the authentic purpose for the generation and completion stages. The syllables of emanation bring limitless benefit to sentient beings. Syllables of sound are the root cause for accomplishing the secret mantra. So here all other syllables emanate from the syllable Ah. So that is the basic sound, and so that is the one from which all of these others come. And so even the consonants have that sound attached to them, as I mentioned before. So ka, ka, ga, nga, for example, all have the Ah sound. And then the vowels are inherent within the consonants, which I was just referring to, due to the congruency with the enumerations of deities. So there are 42 consonants as a part of that. Moving on to the bottom of page 284. These syllables radiate like clouds from kayas of the Buddhas to become seed syllables for generating the mandala, as well as naturally abiding within the channels of sentient beings. So all of these syllables constitute the mandala associated with the actual practice. And then in the middle of 285 we have determining connection with the meaning. From within the ground of spontaneous presence, compassion manifests. Then the wisdom of the intent of all the Tathagatas of the 4 times and the 10 directions is united as one through the intrinsic nature of the primordially awakened magical manifestation of syllables. So these syllables have all in common, and so there is this sense of oneness about all of this, that they all have, even though the syllables are differentiated in some way, they still represent in a singular fashion all of these deities. And so we have the evenness of Vajra space that never wavered from the wisdom intent of this samadhi of primordial awakening. Although phenomena lack true existence and are mere labels, the intrinsic nature has from beginningless time remained as what is called the wheel of the garland of syllables. So this is where particularly the mantra is organized around in a wheel fashion and rotates around as we recite the mantra, and we do the visualization of the deity and so forth as a part of that. So the wheel of garland of syllables that originate from the Vajra body, speech, and mind of the Tathagata himself. The way to meditate, now in the lower part of 286, the way to meditate upon the syllables, and first we have the actual way of meditating, including generation, completion, and application of those activities. So we start with the generation stage, or in this case it might be more accurate to say generation phase, because Mahayoga, of which this Tantra is included, is more of a generation stage practice overall, but within it it has the generation and completion phases, which we will look at here. So first we have refuge and bodhicitta, and then from emptiness we have a lotus and a moon that appear, and with a static awe. From this awe, white ahs as minute as mustard seeds split into 100 pieces and radiate to completely fill the 10 directional realms of all worlds. By these light rays, the entirety of phenomenal existence appears as awe, and then reabsorbs into the root awe, and then we rest in evenness. So this, from the awe, the explosion of all of these other ahs go out and then return back in, and then we just rest at that state. Next then, from the root syllable ah, all 42 consonant syllables and the vowel syllables radiate light in the 10 directions, and from this all sentient beings appear as these syllables. So normally when we look at this, we would be thinking about all sentient beings throughout this universe, as multiple universes even, and here when the light touches them, they are converted into these syllables as well, and then they return back. And they blaze as a single mass of light rays. Everything is reabsorbed into the root ah. Once again, this radiates and reabsorbs exactly as before. Then within the center of the lotus, upon a sun and a moon, so this would be the seat, the sun and the moon discs, all seed syllables are gradually arranged around ah and cha. Ah being the female syllable representing Samattabhadri, and the cha being representing the male Samattabhadra. And the deities are generated. This is the cloud of the causal syllables for the generation stage. So this generates all of the 100 peaceful and wrathful deities as a part of that. And through this process of emanation and then return as a part of this, reabsorption. Next we have the completion stage. Again, this is the completion phase of a generation stage practice. So here with the completion stage, upon a lotus and a moon, so a moon seat, in the heart the visualized deity, a white ah, from which countless ahs radiate, so similar to the last time, the ahs radiate outward, filling the 10 directional worlds. All sentient beings turn into the aspect of ah. Everything dissolves into the original ah in the heart, rest in evenness. And then again, from the surrounding syllables and ah, the consonants radiate as before and reabsorb into the indivisible nature of the phenomena of samsara and enlightenment. Then we rest again in that nature. And this is the cloud of syllables for the completion stage. So you can see this is a little bit different than when we normally talk about the completion stage. We would be talking about the practices like the ones found in the 6 yogas of Naropa, and this is very different than that. So the third part then is to apply this to the enlightened activities. So here we have things, in here it says peaceful, that would be the pacifying activity, enriching, magnetizing, and wrathful, which would be the subduing activity. Awe and all the consonants radiate as white, yellow, red, and dark blue. Illness and demonic forces are pacified. The life expectancy and merit are enriched. The object to be accomplished is magnetized, and the unruly ones are annihilated. And then we again rest in evenness. What are the benefits then of doing these practices? So first of all, this is the wisdom cause, the fruition of whatever cities of the Vajra-like Samattabhadra, including the enlightened body, speech, mind, qualities and activities of all of the Buddhas. So those are the benefits. Then the way the clouds of syllables radiate. He gives a little bit more detail here about this process. Down a few lines in the second paragraph, when all syllables arise, there is the aspect of ah. This means that the basis of speech is ah. Ah becomes the higher sound of e and the lower sound of u, constituting 3 roots. A few more lines down, by the distinctions of each syllable's pronunciation becoming longer or shorter, there are 14 vowels, making 16. So it goes through like ka, ka, ga, ga. There's the H in there makes it a little bit lower level of emphasis and a little bit softer. And then nga at the back of the throat. And then other groupings that we have here, ta, ta, da, da, nya. Tra, tra, dra, dra, nra. Ta, ta, da, da, na. Pa, pa, ba, pa, ma. So each of these sets here, they're really in pairs, one with and one without the softening H sound. In some cases, when they're transliterated, they use an apostrophe instead of an H, so you may see that sometimes as well. And then on the top of the next page, 289, it talks a little bit about the pronunciation of these and the placement of the parts of the mouth in order to make the appropriate sounds. So, for example, ya and sha come from the palate, wa from the lips, ra and ka being a reversed sha. In Tibetan, there were certain sounds from the Sanskrit. Their alphabet was based on the Sanskrit alphabet because they didn't have one originally. And so when they went to India to look at what was in Sanskrit and use that to create their own alphabet, there were certain sounds that simply didn't exist in the Tibetan language, and so they left those out. But later on, when they were translating some of the texts, they discovered that they really needed something to indicate the unique characteristics of those words in order to help understand what the meaning of the words actually were, even though the pronunciation was not quite the same. So that's the reversed ka that is referred to here, and we'll see that later when we look at the mandala and the placement, and those are actually indicated on there. The crown, those are come from the crown of the palate, the ra and ka, and then la, sa from the teeth, ha from the throat, cha from the throat and upper palate. So just giving a sense of how the tongue and the lips work together to pronounce those words. And then there's the appearance of signs that are the cloud of syllables that arise. So the signs are the actual arising of the syllables, and then through subtle modes of motion, phenomena are purified to become like reflections. So a reflection isn't real per se. Right? It's an image that it looks a lot like the original, the real thing, but it's not the real thing. So we're talking about subtle kinds of things, sort of like a reflection. Through the purification process, we recognize that they're not real. When they're extreme intermediate motion, all which is empty is revealed as the intrinsic nature of wisdom. When there is an extremely great motion, the intrinsic nature of indivisibility, of great perfection, phenomena of samsara or enlightenment no longer exist at all, and are therefore only designated through the characteristics based on names. And so we assign the labels to them so that we're able to talk about them, but they don't have any real existence whatsoever. That's their illusory nature that we often refer to in Buddhism. And so then the Tathagata proclaims Ho and rests in the nature of evenness. Moving on to 290, then, we move on to the way the intrinsic nature of syllables is explained. First, we have 6 different parts here. And so the root cause for teaching the syllable is the first one. Revealing the syllables to be Dharmakaya is the second one. The third one, revealing how the syllables are fully awakened as the perfected Sambhogakaya. The fourth one, explained as the Nimanakaya. Excuse me. The fifth one, explained as the mode of perfecting the Mandala of the 45 deities. And finally, the sixth one, explanation of the meaning and sounds of the syllables as the mind's indivisible nature of emptiness and appearances. So then we have explaining the root cause for teaching the syllables, and as these clouds of syllables emanate. So we have those, break these down into the 3 kayas. So we begin with the Dharmakaya. Given that the syllable ah is the source of all syllables, the aspect of appearances is not discarded. The extreme of being empty is also not established. And it's the nihilistic approach. And since the nature has no substance or characteristics, although referred to as not empty, that means there is nothing to be conceptualized. So it's beyond, it's transcendent, it's beyond conceptualization, much like in the Heart Sutra. No eyes, no ears, and so forth. You get beyond the labels. Indivisible means that the middle way has never been conceptualized, since transcends that which can be seen as appearances as well as the intrinsic nature of emptiness. So again, like in the Heart Sutra, it is beyond the labels that we attach to them. It's a transcendent understanding or wisdom. Everything is only labeled. Having no true inherent existence, the wisdom mind of all Buddhas abide within this garland of syllables, the spontaneously present Dharmakaya. The Sambhogakaya, then. Although the source of all syllables is itself, contributing circumstances cause this nature to appear as diverse aspects of syllables. We have the vowels, we have the consonants, and so forth. So these are the diverse aspects of that arise out of the but then they create all of the syllables, the vowels and consonants here. So these 42 syllables radiate from is also certain that they too are awakened because they are the play of the single nature. Ultimately, is the space of Samittabhadri, and the 42 syllables that emanate from are the 42 Buddhas. Their intrinsic nature is revealed as the Sambhogakaya of syllables. So we recognize them as like the Sambhogakaya form of a Buddha, where those individuals who are highly realized can see and understand and so forth, but ordinary individuals are not able to see or understand. Then we have the Nimanakaya, the physical form of a Buddha. The wheel of cloud of syllables is an inconceivably great magical manifestation. It is like how the subtlest aspect of form, a particle, when combined with other particles, becomes a cluster. So when these things grouped together, so the sounds are grouped together as syllables and as words and so forth, then it becomes a text and later on a teaching. Likewise, the origins of names are the syllables. Through that combination of names, material things will be established and generate all words. This is how the profound various meanings of the vehicles are revealed and expressed to others. So the teachings come together from just sounds that become syllables, that become words, that become phrases, and those get combined together to create various meaning through language and teachings. The insubstantial intrinsic nature of a syllable is the clear light nature of one's mind. The indivisible nature of phenomena similar to a water moon, a reflection of a moon in water. Syllables appear and abide without true existence. So just as the reflection is not the real moon, the syllables appear in either written form or sound, and yet they have no inherent existence in and of themselves. Down on to the bottom of the page then, from various clouds of syllables, colors, forms, names, and words, the many emanations manifest in harmony with the fortune of beings and are revealed as boundless enumerations of Dharma. Hence, the images of the syllables that appear as scriptures fulfill the purpose of beings as the enlightened deeds of the wheel of syllables. So the purpose of the syllables and what they do, the deeds, is through that wheel of syllables to allow us to have the teachings. Even the syllables meditated upon as the deity's seed essences are the manifestation of the wheel of syllables. So the cloud of syllables abides as the emanation itself. So the mantra, the syllables themselves, are the Nirmanakaya manifestation in this case. Then, the way of perfecting the mandala of the 45 deities. All Buddhas who have come are the secret, self-originating wisdom beings, the mandala of enlightened body. This includes the enlightened body of body, the enlightened speech of body, the enlightened mind of body, along with 5 distinctions for each, as well as qualities and activities totaling 15. Likewise, for enlightened speech and mind, there are also 15. So there's a total of 45 mandalas. The syllables then are the source of all of those mandalas. Then the syllables as mind's indivisible nature of emptiness and appearances. And this is divided into 3 parts. How the unborn nature of mind is the aspect of syllables, the way the enlightened qualities are spontaneously present through the appearance of the syllables, and how the indivisible syllables of emptiness and appearances are arranged, and who wrote them down. So first, the intrinsic clear light nature of mind is the spontaneous presence of the syllables. And these syllables do not exist as substance or with characteristics. So they just are. Again, like going to the Madhyamaka. It just is. We can't say anything more about it at this point. So then, second, about the middle of the page here, 294, since these syllables of genuine truth, the non-conceptual nature of mind, have various qualities of clear light, such as the great wheel of the enlightened body that supports, the wheel of enlightened speech that communicates meanings, the wheel of enlightened mind that rests in evenness, the wheel of qualities that are omniscient, and the wheel of activities that are unimpeded. This intrinsic nature of the inexhaustible ornamental wheels of the Buddha's body, speech, and mind represents the primordial, spontaneously present, and fully endowed qualities. So this, as we saw, represents all 3 of the kayas. So the innate nature of Dharmakaya, and then the representation through sound, speech, and so forth of the Sambhogakaya, and then the actual nature of those in the representation of the syllables themselves as the Nirmanakaya. Third, the syllables that appear in this way are written within the primordially pure, unchanging space of phenomena by the spontaneously present wisdom of effortless basic space. Referred to as syllables, they are actually the permanent, unchanging, intrinsic nature of the clear light nature of phenomena. So their essence is transcendent. It is beyond anything that we can describe other than phrases that we use like clear light, which in and of themselves have the potential for creating the idea of reifying these into something that they are not. So they're beyond even those kinds of labels. And this is said to abide primordially within the entirety of samsara and enlightenment. Then we have the specific explanation of how this applies to each individual deity, and starting with the meaning of the 3 syllables. And so first he refers to the punctuation mark, and that would be a line, just a straight line down this way. And then revealing the meaning of the indivisibility of method and prajna, this represents the unmistaken Vajra enlightened mind that is placed at the head of all scriptures. And so that mark is at the beginning of the line of text in all scriptures. And then the circles, or dots, kind of resembling an eye, the prajna does not abide in either extreme appears as a syllable a that indicates the meaning of the paramita of prajna, wisdom, to establish and express the individual names of all things. The punctuation stroke or vertical line of the syllable a starts or ends with that stroke. If I could do it backward here, I'm not sure you can see this or not, but it comes down, hooks around, and then a little thing up to the center, then there's a curved line down, and then there's a long straight line. That's the punctuation mark or vertical line. The syllable a is straight like an arrow. This indicates protection of beings through the great compassion as the great magical method of Vajrakaya. Then going on to the bottom of 287, we began with the explanation of the meaning of the 42 syllables. And the next page, the overview. So this deals with why the syllables are misconstrued, what the names indicate, and how the radiance arises. So first, the order of the syllables is in accord with the way the wisdom deities abide. A represents emptiness, the space of phenomena, samatapadri. And cha is the nature of the appearances, as the wisdom samatapadri. And so the wisdom being. And then we have the beginning and ending. These are the beginning and ending syllables, so the a and the cha. And because the Sambhogakaya is revealed as the manifestation arising within the ground Samatapadra himself, indivisible emptiness and appearances, or just appearance emptiness, we sometimes refer to it. The clear light nature of mind is the original Samatapadra. Inseparable emptiness and appearance is the radiance male-female Samatapadra. So the two together in union. From within the clear light, the Dharmakaya, the Sambhogakaya, arises as self-appearances. From within this, the 5 male-female families and the seed syllables are then revealed. So from the Samatapadra union, then the 5 Buddha families arise from that, as well as then all of the others. Then the seed syllables of the 4 inner sattvas are revealed. Subjugation of inward fixated passions. The syllable for Yamantaka is revealed. Sense for objects endowed with these sattvas being a being, appear as the individual consorts. Their seed syllables are also revealed. From the display, Mahabala appears and his seed syllable is revealed. And then the 4 sattvas of enlightened speech appear. Their seed syllables are revealed. Hayagriva appears. His seed syllable is revealed. Then the 4 female sattvas of time. The seed syllables of the 4 consorts are revealed. And the 4 female gatekeepers and their seed syllables. So we're going through all the different categories of these individual sattvas or beings, enlightened beings, the Buddhas and so forth. The Samittabhadra is Cha, and from the strength of the kayas of these deities, the 6 sages appear in each of the world systems. And so the sages each are assigned to the different parts of the 6 realms of all beings. And different universes would have their own, so there would be countless numbers of these. Each of the syllables then are revealed. Amrita Kandali his syllable is revealed, and then that shows the pure lands of the wrathful ones, our self-appearances, and then Buddha Haruka's seed syllable, Om, is revealed at the conclusion. Secondly, then, both the unborn nature and enlightened mind, referred to as the male-female Samittabhadra, appears within the space of unborn nature of mind and the unceasing compassion of self-originating wisdoms, with the combination of the wisdom and compassion here. And then this is the basis from which all mandalas arise. And then we have all 5 male families, referred to as magical manifestation, which reveals that the 5 aggregates are magical method of self-appearance. The 5 consorts, referred to as the matrix, which is a connection with indivisible prajna, or wisdom, which reveals the 5 elements are pure within space. The 4 inner sattvas are referred to as enlightened mind, indicating that the intrinsic nature of consciousness is pure. The 4 female sattvas of the objects are referred to as the enlightened body, indicating that phenomena of the coarse objects that appear to the organs' consciousness are pure in their place. The 4 outer sattvas are referred to as enlightened speech, indicating that the clarity of the organs as well as their ability to comprehend is pure in its place. The 4 female sattvas of time are referred to as pure, indicating that in the 4th time, all times are pure in their place and transcend existing, not existing, eternalism, and nihilism. And the 4 male gatekeepers are referred to as destructive, indicating that conquering the 4 demons and harm doers, including passions, are pure in their place. The 4 female gatekeepers are referred to as genuine nature of phenomena, indicating the infinite primordial purity, spontaneously accomplishing the purpose of beings, and also indicates that self-possessiveness and materializing are pure in their place. The 6 sages, being referred to as countless particles, indicates that their uncountable emanations will, within infinite worlds, spontaneously accomplish the purpose of beings, and that the habits of the 6 types of beings are pure in their place. The wrathful ones are referred to as the destroyers of everything, indicating that the taming of the haughty ones and that objective appearances are pure as wisdom. So that gives a fairly short but detailed list of the relationship then between each of these sets and what their purpose is, how they are realized. And then, excuse me, it goes through the way radiance arises. The faces of the principal one can be seen from any direction. So you may be looking directly at me, but I could be seen from the side, either side, from above, below, from behind. My face could also be seen in that case. So it, again, kind of transcends our normal way of understanding things. So in the east is the male-female Akshobhya, surrounded by the Bodhisattvas, and then to their east, the eastern gatekeeper, Yamantaka, with the consort. In the south, the male and female Ratnasambhava, and the Bodhisattvas, and to their south, Mahabala with consort. And the west, the male-female Amitabha, surrounded by Bodhisattvas, and then to their west, Hayagriva and consort, and then the north, the male-female Amoghasiddhi and the Bodhisattvas, and then to their north, Amrita Kundali and consort, and then from these appear the upper pure lands of the wrathful ones and the countless emanations of the 6 sages, radiating into all realms of the world, and they abide forever as an unceasing wheel. And so I left out some of the names in reading through that, but you can read through those and see the individual names of each. Continuing on then on page 302, the placement of the syllables in categories was acceptable to previous masters. Excuse me. However, if placed out of order, this not only becomes difficult for listeners to understand, it is unsuitable to teach. The order of the syllables of space, including the 5 male-female families, syllables of the inner sattvas, including the gatekeepers, syllables of the outer sattvas, including the gatekeepers, the syllables of wisdom and the 6 sages, the syllables of the wrathful gatekeepers, and others. So all of those are included. So next we go on to the symbolism of the various syllables, and we're going to look at the actual placement of them in the mandala. And so we're going to take a little break before we do that.